Yes, let's get ready to rumble. Okay. Aw, popped your sub tray. Thank you, Think Fast Rabbit. That's very nice of you. Well, you're a smart person, a gentleman and a scholar, or perhaps a lady and a scholar. I'm not here to judge you on your identity or your gender. Okay.
So this draft was interesting. It was very SKT, but I mean the story of this final, honestly, in a lot of ways to me was Blanks picking at least 3 games in a row.
This is what I expected, though. I mean, he did play a lot of Elise, and I
Sure,
think
but it's
that
not what it had been, right?
no, it wasn't. But I think by the end of this tournament, what SKT realized is that as long as they could have some pressure in the early game, they were going to be able to outplay people in the late game.
And I definitely agree with that. Like he showed in the SKT Rocks final game 1 that he could have pressure on Kindred, but throughout this tournament, in group stages, he was like the polar opposite of someone like MLXG who would play the same champion pool but apply a lot of pressure. So I commend them for giving up on the standard meta. Because remember, a lot of junglers are available here. Nidalee falls to last round pick on blue side. With every jungler available, they grab Elise early and they make it work.
Credit to CLG, though, for realizing that they were going to get the Nidalee pick so late in the draft. They could have easily prioritized it in one of their first 2 rounds of the draft instead, and they decide that they're just going to let him have it. So I think they had the right priority on the pick, given that Blank has been struggling, or had been struggling in this tournament so far. I also like their strategy here, because they see the rise in Aurelion Soulban, and Huhi is obviously a very poor Azir player. They take the Echo, and then they flex it into the mid lane by taking the Poppy, because of course we do see the Ezreal and the Azir come in as the first round on the red side. So they had a plan in place in case the Huhi's champion pool was pinched, and I like what they did.
What about the Soraka pick? Because that's a big recurring story. We criticized SKT for early rotation.
I still don't like Soraka. I mean, I think that too much has been made of Soraka. I think Soraka still has a lot of problems and is overly reliant on 5v5 team fights in the late game in a meta where double TP is very common. And I think that if we look at what Soraka can do here, the answer is going to be not much, because what T1 wants to do, SKT, is they want to put down the 4-1 split push and get rolling with the Trundle. And a Soraka ult is not going to save Poppy if Trundle starts to get scary.
And then team fights with Soraka and Nidalee are always hard to navigate, right? But you just look at this comp. Both Echo and Poppy are initiators. They're both backline team fighters, and throughout this series, they draft similar comps. And Aphromu is always targeted first. He's always taken out because positioning as Soraka is a nightmare in these fights.
Yep.
Poppy, Echo, and Lucian all have different abilities to displace and move around a fight, and there's just no way to actually. Because the thing about Soraka is if you're in a conga line and the tank's in the front, you're just sustaining, she can be great, but it's a nightmare to position a Soraka in this comp.
Absolutely. Elise can get over the front line. Even the Nami's going to be able to CC her from the front line, basically, with the tidal wave. And we haven't seen Nami in a while, but
The Nami pick is...
I actually don't really care about the Nami pick.
It's interesting, though. Like, this is, again, Nami... We talked about what are the unique champions we're going to see, and we didn't see Nami coming especially.
I just don't see that it's that impactful. I do think that Nami is a better version of Sona, more or less. It's more reliable engage when you don't have your flash up. So I like it a little bit better. She also offers hard CC besides her ultimate.
But the fun thing is, Elise Nami is actually a fucking deadly roam duo.
Yep.
Because if you hit the cocoon, if you hit one of those CCs, probably the cocoon because you can flash for it, the guaranteed 1.5 second stun afterwards in the Aqua Prison is actually pretty deadly. So, and then obviously you have the slows from the auto attacks with the Tycor's Blessing. I was thinking a lot about Nami because you think about the comps that they pick Nami in, they're not necessarily comps where you're like, Nami is exactly what this team needs, right? It didn't really stand out to you. But I was just thinking more about Nami and moving forward. The big story for the later patches is going to be the removal of distortion boots. In general, the removal of movement speed. So obviously Sivir gets better because she provides AoE move speed. But in the low move speed meta, Nami actually gets better because one of the reasons people don't play her is you hit the Aqua Prison, she's fucking amazing. You miss the Aqua Prison, she basically does nothing.
Or you can run out of the ult too,
Sure.
if you have enough move speed. So I think Nami probably will be, like you said, coming back. I didn't expect to see it this early.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I also think the chase down you can get to with Nami is very impactful against the basically extremely limited mobility of Soraka.
And like Azir's an auto attacker, so while Tycho's blessing's not necessarily geared for him, it's fine. Yeah. So there wasn't a demand for a Nami pick, but it was nice to see Nami make a re-debut and actually look important.
It's also super good in any kind of 4-1 composition because you can disengage with Tidal Wave. And that's not how this game is going to end up. By the way, we've both seen this game.
We've seen all 3 games.
We've seen all 3 games. But in the theoretical universe where SK Telecom wants to initiate a 4-1 split, Elise is not the best peeling jungler, but Nami's Tidal Wave is amazing for peeling for a siege composition. And you couple that with Azir turrets and stuff like that, you're going to have a pretty good time. CLG, I guess pretty standard. I do think this composition has a bit of a mixed message. It's not great at sieging. It's kind of awkward as a composition because you don't really have any noticeable strengths. You're going to lose the split push matchup. Your basic hope is that maybe Echo gets super far ahead and is able to apply pressure solo in a lane. But otherwise, it's just kind of a mess in the late game. It doesn't really do any one thing well, because you'll have Nidalee trying to poke right there, but Lucian is a relatively low-range AD carry. You've got Poppy and Echo that want to go in, Soraka and Nidalee that want to stay back, or at least Nidalee wants to go in when people are low. And I'm just not a fan of this comp overall.
So one of the stories we learned, again, in the LCK finals was Ezreal priority going way up, right?
Yeah,
we saw Ezreal become first rotation, usually on the red side. And one of the reasons for that is that a champion like Poppy, right, one of the best backline divers, can just dive in there, get an AD carry next to wall, it's all over. Ezreal still does damage when he's kiting back from Poppy. Ezreal isn't denied by Poppy. The only AD carry, the only tank that can really deny Ezreal from poking or using Q and R is Maokai, with targeted CC, then just activating the ult and tanking everything, taking the first hit of the True Shot barrage, reducing damage. So in a world where Maokai was banned in this game, banned permanently in that Rocks Tigers series, Poppy actually has no threat onto Ezreal, and it's why Ezreal has become very early rotations that you can get through the laning phase, and then especially Echo and Poppy, who of course are the meta top laners after Maokai, Ezreal's not concerned with them at all.
No, because basically what happens is Poppy E's in, you Arcane Shift away. If Poppy has Flash, hopefully you have Flash too to get away, and then you have Iceborne Gauntlet and can kite her forever. So there's not really a lot of opportunities. Obviously this game is going to get super messy. The other thing that I really like that SK Telecom did was they held last pick for support when they had already picked the Trundle, so you can flex it from the top lane to the support position as needed. So
I mean, the flex on both sides were great. The Echo flex,
yep.
They didn't really have a great answer for the Azir, clearly, who's champion pool pinched. They've done it before in NALCS in the playoffs.
I just don't like CLG's draft with the Soraka combined with this all-in front line.
So
basically.
let's say I told you, let's say I saw this series and I'm like, by the way, SKT lost, CLG won this game. If you looked at this draft, how did they win the game?
I don't know how they won the game.
And look, we've seen stuff like that happen before, and kind of that's the reason why I criticize it, is that Echo and Poppy desperately want to die, but the other 3 desperately don't die.
No, and this is one of those times where you maybe... obviously, Alistar would be really good in this composition. It is banned. Even Bard might be good if you get a Bard ult in to allow Echo to hit his W, parallel convergence, and go in and buy time for him to get his ult into the middle of the fight. But I just don't like... Kindred also would be better here. I just don't like Nidalee and Soraka with Lucian, Poppy,
Smithy
Echo.
played a really good Nidalee in the semifinals.
He did. Well, he played a good Nidalee here too, but it's when you're playing the farm game, it's one thing. When you actually have to win a game of League of Legends, your composition, half of it is trying to stay back as Nidalee and Soraka, and the other half is trying to go in. It just doesn't...
I think Jat mentioned, he was talking about the synergy between Nidalee and Soraka, just because Soraka falls low and you can top off with Nidalee. It's just in a different comp.
But for what reason? In a poke composition, that works. So if we were to say here that there's going to be Lucian Corky mid, then I agree with you, all right? But the problem is that Echo Poppy, that concept is fine, but that concept does not work here.
And that's why they started with the Echo, then it became the Soraka Poppy, and then when you have Echo, Soraka Poppy, there's just not a comp that really rounds that out, right? At that point, you're just like, shit, we don't do either of the things. I guess we want to win lane now, so I'll get Lucian. He's very lane dominant. We've seen Lucian bans on red side. Nidalee, Xmithie played it very well, but there's no like coherent identity when those are the first 3 picks.
No. No, there's not.
And maybe that's the criticism, is that the draft kind of got away from them after the 2nd round.
All right, we're gonna get into this.
A more supportive utility.
Five phases. Hashtag CLG win or hashtag SKT win. As far as the trophy is concerned, you can see SKT.
So we are going to get into this game. That's a cool shot.
One in the best of 5. The North American LCS on the blue side for the entire series, however long that may be.
I didn't even know you could do that.
I didn't even know you could either. That's awesome.
The Korean observers watching this be like, yes, yes.
They have yet to secure in the world.
It's definitely something that people have.
Twitch chat seems to be pretty big on SKT win.
One trophy that
God, I hope they
slipped through
win.
the fingers of Coma, Faker, Bang, Wolf last year at MSI. The one thing missing from their collection.
Taken away from them, if you will.
Stolen. Yeah. Earned by
I like how Zyrene made a tweet after this game where he said SKT winning is like them coming into a party and popping all the balloons. And I said back to him, I said, funny, I think of it more like SKT came to the party and brought more balloons.
When they saw the trundle, they didn't know.
Do you guys want more beer?
I've got beer.
I've got beer, I'm fine.
Top lane for Duke into the Poppy, making it a bit harder for CLG to get a specific counter pick. Soraka is just their go-to, honestly, right now. A lot of people consider her the strongest of the range supports, and that's why they went for that choice. CLG are gonna get
We're going to see a lot more Nami in summer.
Let's see.
This is my early
React
prediction.
here, bottom lane does look like they're trying to move away from it and get that lane swap
Okay,
that-
so deep ward's in. We've seen this from CLG before. We are going to see a lane swap here from SK Telecom.
This is what we're talking about. Remember, SKT
Yep.
tried to pull off...
Yep, same strategy, by the way. So
Do they have the same vision they did last time? Do you remember?
yes, they do. So they were going to go in right here, and
You're gonna get some early information.
so they are going to try and start the Raptors. Now, where does Duke go right here?
Trying to move away from it.
The problem here is that Duke leaves, and previously when SKT did this, so at CLG, we talked about if you guys remember, we did go over the lane swap in Game 4, but they get really greedy right here, and they don't anticipate that this is going to come through. Exhaust goes down, but this is really well played by Afromid, by the way.
Yep. Until it isn't.
Until it isn't.
And that's the thing, is that I was watching this being like, man, CLG...
Yeah, really good. Because they knew, they already had a plan in place in case SK Telecom did this. And in fact, arguably SK Telecom shouldn't have shown this lane swap strategy until the finals, because CLG has
When you're
been the
2-1
most...
up as well.
CLG has been, yeah, when you're 2-1 up. CLG has been the most active team about placing these deep wards in the early game, and I feel like this could have been a real big ace up their sleeve in the final. But instead, CLG reacts to it super well. They keep the Soraka and the Lucian in the mid lane. So basically, they just mirror what SK Telecom does so they can react to the early invade. And it's super smart.
Yep.
If you guys go back and watch the Twitch stream of our review of Royal versus SKT, we talk about this at the very end of the stream.
And this is great from Afromid.
Yeah, it's very good. And Blank is just getting super greedy right now. I mean, he was already chunked out. He needs to just go to Raptors
I don't
right
understand
now.
why you tried to start Wolves.
Well, because if we notice, Xmithie is starting on the upper side of the jungle, which means that theoretically Xmithie could get 3 quadrants right here, and 0 camps could potentially
But
be
what
taken
world
by
does
SKT.
Afromid not come and chunk you further, though?
Yeah. And then Wolf is going to come down because they do have the 1v1 in the top side, same thing in the bottom side of the map, and try and make a play on the Huhi.
Now, Wolf is also late when it comes to contesting the enemy jungler, so he kind of has to come mid.
Yep.
So this is the part where I was like, oh shit, SKT's getting bossed.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is really smart. This is a great reaction to...
Gets more 21 gold, very nice.
Yep. And Wolf is going to have to come here. Remember, Wolf only has bubble right now, so he can't even offer any kind of heals or anything. It's really greedy. And then, here's the problem.
Okay. There's a lot of problems at this point.
Here's where it all starts to go wrong. So if you're Xmithie, you're already level 2.
Uh-huh.
You have cleared out 2 camps. You already have a buff. You can just go ahead and take blue buff right here, and you're going to be significantly ahead of Elise. Right now, CLG has done awesome. This is perfect for them. The one problem is that Duke did get a little bit more ahead of Darshan.
Because he went to lane quickly.
He went to lane
but
quickly.
But Blank is the loser, right? That was the trade.
Yep, and Blank being the loser is fine if you're CLG because this Nidalee is going to wreck him.
But like, look at the CS.
And
Now
then,
this.
oh my god.
Oh boy. Why does he kite upwards for more autos? That's his problem here.
Duke just sat bot lane, one
And then he's like,
more.
This Bang and Darshan.
to his credit, he didn't flash. He
The
was
worst part
definitely
is that Bang doesn't even have to use his summoner heal. I mean,
We've seen Darshan die like this before, I
And-
believe, at an international event.
he just doesn't do well at international events. Bang also levels off that kill.
Okay, I think that's an unfair comment. He did actually play well at this event, but this particular solo kill is,
And then they try and go in onto Duke here. So Duke backs off, and he knows he's got a big advantage over Darshan right now.
Yep.
So he's just going to walk out. And plus the lane, if we notice, the lane is frozen close to the turret. So he can't walk into lane because they will come in behind
See,
him
the
and
issue
gank
with
him.
trying to finish this buff is look at who he's doing. He's doing the Hoo-Hee special. He's going for an early back. He does this a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's no lane pressure in mid suddenly.
Yeah, this spear too, so they're not going to get the poke damage down. And remember, Xmithy was super low already. So he is level 3.
But this is so greedy.
he's just...
Like, if your mid laner stays there and has pressure, it's fine, but...
I mean, notice that SK Telecom uses one summoner for these kills. One. Oh, they use Flash for Duke too. But otherwise it was just the exhaust. They didn't have to use any summoner spells at all
Bless you.
on anything else, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. So CLG, just a train wreck right now. And not only that, but because there are 2 deaths, Duke just gets to walk back into lane for free with Nami.
Don't see early games start so well and go so south within, what, 2 minutes across the map in 2 lanes? And I guess the mid, if you count Hoo-Hee not accounting for Faker, right, being able to roam, like...
It's just such a poor display of coordination by CLG, and Hoo-Hee just backing was awful. I mean, there's just no communication.
Because I don't know. Because the lane wasn't even pushed up.
No.
He didn't even lose a wave to go get a double kill. Or get 2 kill involvements. And then you're just like, well... I mean, there was like a million tweets about this game when that happened, right? And you're just like, well, regame, or this one's over.
By the way, I'm so happy we did get the regame. That was the best. I love that.
Honestly...
What the fuck is Duke doing? He doesn't need a TP...
He TPs from one turret to the other to get the wave.
It's a cannon wave.
Yeah, he really wanted all the minions.
He was going to get that minion anyway.
He was gonna probably miss cannon XP.
You think that's a fucking teleport worth right there?
No. But I'm telling you what he thought.
Oh. I mean, Duke played...
Hey, Duke's had worse teleports this tournament.
He does know that Puppy already TP'd, so it's not actually going to be punished, I don't think. I don't remember. But that TP is just putrid.
Suddenly he gets a call from bottom and this Trundle is just pushing mid, he's just getting free farm.
It's just...
Besides, he already had the kill and the assist, so even if he loses a cannon minion, who the fuck cares?
I don't disagree with you. I'm
tilting.
I know you're tilting. But, like, imagine what this game would have been like if CLG just didn't play that poorly at level 1 after starting so well. Like, it would be a different game. Like, you feel like Smithy could be like 3 camps, 4 camps ahead. He already is, but you know what I mean. Like, significantly ahead.
Also, it's worth noting right now that we do see Ezreal swap down in the bottom side, if we recall. And basically, CLG reads this really well and is going to push up both bottom and top and use this to swap back because they want to deny the Trundle as much as possible. So credit to CLG. They, in spite of their absolutely god-awful start to this game, they're actually playing around the win conditions of their enemy quite well. They know what happens when this Trundle gets huge and how they can't stop it. So they are just going to keep swapping up and trying to continue.
Especially because Trundle builds damage when he's ahead, so even weaker when you swap into him.
And let's just talk about what just happened here like a minute ago.
So also because SKT was trying to freeze the wave, and now they all of a sudden have to push it really fast once they realize that they're not going to get the 2v2 anymore.
Instantly as he sees Duke teleport, he leaves the top lane. He does not want to play that 1v1. He's definitely not against a double longsword.
So Darshan now back at the bottom side.
Meaning SKT
And
push out the lanes.
invasion here from Blank. Xmithy is playing a little bit dangerous, but without TP and with Faker bottled up in the mid lane, it's not too bad, but he is going to get this camps and then back out. So he's really just taking all he can, and Blank, at this point, he has to leave the enemy jungle. So this is smart, actually, by Xmithy, because he takes the only camp in that side of the jungle, meaning Blank has to go into his own jungle right now, meaning that there's no dive threat onto Darshan, even if he leaves.
And it's just a reality also of the Nidalee versus Elise matchup, is that because the Nidalee has a level advantage, had the wards, so got the first spear, and even though it's 3v2 in the bot lane, you can still have enough pressure in that situation.
Yeah, Faker has to flash right there, and Hui does a good job playing this matchup throughout the series. He was obviously ready for it. It's really nice. Very near miss on that ultimate.
Maybe we should call in Saint and ask him how he feels about the Soraka pick.
Nope. We're going to have to listen to it all series if that's the case.
Well trodden.
That earlier invade he tried to do on Smithy cost him quite a bit of time. And
I agree with Saint about this Soraka pick, though.
but this bottom side of the map is SKT territory.
I'm not going to defend the Nami pick either.
No. I think it's okay, but it's not great. So finally they're going to try and make a play here onto Darshan. I mean, great. That's such an excellent kill lane. Blank just uses his flash to make sure that he's going to hit that. So the question, though, this is what really sets Duke behind, by the way, in this game. Because right now you'd be thinking, okay, well, CLG's caught up a little bit in gold thanks to the farming, but all that money basically is on Xmithy. Meanwhile, if you notice, the gold differentials are on the three carries, top, mid, and AD carry of SK Telecom, where they have even farms. So the way they've caught up is Xmithy. And Nidalee is not going to do anything in the late game.
No.
So it's not actually valuable. And I think people, from what I was looking at in this series, people were getting so hyped up because they came back from this gold deficit. But a really well-farmed Nidalee over an underfarmed Elise late game doesn't mean anything.
And funnily enough, they kind of have insurance in one way because of the double exhaust. Like, it's no rise on this team, but even if Nidalee gets super fed, she's not going to be one-shotting people.
No, if she comes in, she'll just get exhausted, like you said. So the problem here with Duke is that, let's watch what Duke does.
Let's see why Duke does this. So,
well, it's pushing out. So he's really worried. Is it pushing out?
4 minions. Is that...
Yeah, there's a caster minion wave behind it. It's actually not pushing out.
No.
It's really hard to tell because this other mini wave's going to be here, but there are a lot of caster minions, which is what makes waves push faster because they do more damage.
It will push out over the next 2 waves. Like, eventually it will, so there'll be a big build-up there.
Yeah, you're never supposed to sit
I watched Solar Renekton.
Yeah, it will, you're right, because now they're going to hit... Yeah, you're right, it's pushing out. So, Duke knows what he's doing here. The issue is that Duke has a ward, or no, he does have a ward there, actually. Does it time out?
Yeah, it's timed out. He only has the ward.
Well, he sees it right there.
Then he's boned.
Actually get the same treatment up top.
His flash is up in 5-10 seconds, though.
He probably thought he was okay until his flash came up, but still sloppy.
Led with the exhaust. That's smart.
Yeah. But it does result in the first dragon in the game for SKT, which actually becomes a major sticking point in this game because they start to stack him up. And they get it really early, post or pre 8 minutes.
So they greed for the minions and they get punished.
Yeah, and CLG are clawing right back into this game.
And the tower, you know, because CLG pushed both bottom and top and then swapped, they actually had an advantage to get the tower quicker. So they're up a tower as well, and now they're right back in this game in terms of gold. So it's the turret and then the 17 CS onto Xmithy. So really well played by CLG. But the problem is that CLG is playing to their opponent's win conditions very well, but they don't really have win conditions of their own with this composition. So they actually don't really have a strength as a team comp.
I mean, if they get a dragon lead, and you can have Hui camp a bush, and you know the ult obviously isn't spotted, so you can get a sick ult off and DPS people down, like sure, but
It's such a long shot though, and that's not really a win condition. That's just
not getting picks
an
around
echo.
an objective is a win condition.
It's unlikely. They don't have enough hard CC to create those picks. Not instantaneous hard CC at least.
I don't know. Poppy Echo could do things in a world where you have 4 dragons to 0.
Ugh, it's just such a long shot.
Aggressive in the early game, less punishing for them.
Sure, but it's not over a champ select. You can win with any calm.
Yeah.
Theirs is just a difficult one. It's just how does anyone, like, it's basically Bang Unchained, which sounds like a pretty good movie that you shouldn't Google. But
I'm gonna Google right now.
maybe off stream. But just no one can deal with him, and he's free farming, and it's gonna be sad times.
The wave was pushing away from Duke when
Yep, and they get the turret back too. So,
so you actually end up losing even
Smithy hits a lot of spears this game.
but credit to CLG for even bouncing back from the situation in the first place. They calmed down after their mistakes, and then they made the right lane assignments afterwards, and they played the minion wave
Look
pressure
at the
game
goal lead.
super well.
It's
Yep.
absent. Like, it's crazy.
Well, it's all on Xmithy now.
Sure.
All of it is right on Xmithy.
Darshan is getting bullied. The Trundle is knocked away by the verdict. And Duke, with that subjugate, wins the 1v1.
first time Duke gets any vision on where CLG is on the map. And
Yeah,
then he can
so
start
Duke
pushing
starts to
out
play a
the
little
wave.
bit better right
He
here.
took over a minute, and that is why he's so far behind. He needs this wave.
But he was denied a lot of CS because that huge mini wave hit the turret, he was killed, and Darshan is now back in this despite having that early deficit. So CLG is really slowing SKT down because they need this 4-1 split push to work. And that's what they're really banking on. Fortunately for SKT, CLG's team fighting is so weak with their composition that it's probably going to be approximately even in the late game. Normally you wouldn't say that with a Trundle, but because Trundle actually does help you kite with the Ezreal and the Azir, and CLG's composition basically does nothing,
Sure.
they're still going to be fine.
Of the javelin toss. We've crossed it over the 10-minute mark. Looking at the minimap, some very different
Exhaust on Faker is interesting to me. It's like we talked about how double exhaust could be helpful against the Nidalee, but in the Echo matchup, it feels like if you're taking the ult damage, you're not getting exhaust.
Yeah, I
Before you
agree.
take the damage.
I agree. You actually can't get the exhaust up before you take the damage, really.
Oh, I mean, you could like flash on top of him, or if he stood in one spot for 3 seconds, clearly. But
Yeah.
you're right. In any realistic sense, it doesn't do anything. So
Because he just vanishes off the map while he's teleporting to his ultimate, so you can't click on him.
you know, double exhaust is a staple against Ryze, but it was intriguing to see it in this game.
Control of the river, because that means your mid laner can often play very aggressive. He can see both sides of the map. He knows he's not getting
sure Faker
ganked.
has a reason
The
to
enemy
take
team suddenly don't know if a jungler is hiding there, so they're afraid to do anything.
I guess if you can get away with it, I mean, exhaust is a combat summoner that beats most other ones, so you know, why not? I guess.
Haven't really
Yeah.
secured anything on the side of SKT, and that allows Hui to play aggressive, which he needs to in this lane.
Yeah, it was honestly an impressive recovery for the time being from CLG. They still have to be very worried about the late game Faker Azir.
Now, I'm wondering at what point Duke's going to be worried as well. 77 CS to 41.
Well,
Still down in
We're going to fast forward a little bit because it's just going to be farming right now.
Bottom side now. Because SKT tried to set up that pig ward in the river.
CLG is going to be happy to even be in this game at this point. SKT is going to be just fine farming up and powering up this Trundle
For the
with a split push.
You talk about
Against RNG, they didn't play aggressive. Because all they had to do was push out their lane, could then snowball.
So here we
let him play
go.
aggressive, let him get a few kills and let him win the game.
Duke is still about at the same deficit that he was before, so he's not finding a way to actually catch up right now. But it doesn't really matter because Faker and Bang are enough ahead, and given enough time, Duke will be fine. And the fact that he already has a kill and an assist are propping him up. He's basically even with Poppy right now.
He's probably like 10 CS behind. Because Kill is 13 CS. Or at least it used to be.
I think it's about, what, is it still 13? It depends on the, obviously,
Sure,
on
but
the
let's call it
CS.
20 for a kill and assist, right? Like,
Yeah, alright, fair enough.
Again, that's all credit to
That's
CLG,
probably about
how they
accurate.
managed to push up lanes and then roam in and take them out because it's very hard
and again,
to
it's
know
credit to CLG's rotations because the 0-2-0 Poppy is
Yep.
ahead in CS.
vision around this,
Yep. They deserve a lot of credit for this game.
is going to put a slow on Afro move. Tidal wave is flashed away.
Well, also Duke didn't have to die, but even, the thing is, even if Duke didn't die, that minion wave would still be in the same shitty position. He had to push up right there.
at the same time that SKT are starting up this dragon, the dive,
And that's just one of those things where it's kind of unlucky.
but that's enough to dissuade SKT. All that SKT have to do now is wait.
And CLG does do a good job of pushing up the mid lane, but they do have to sacrifice this. Darshan actually just sort of awkwardly wanders in. They want to dive Faker right now.
The turret dive positioning is fine, it's just that the cost when someone's stacking AD is going to be a turret.
Yeah. Also, Faker still has flash and exhaust.
Is it because Dragon spawned, though?
stronger in a team fight at the moment due to
Well, they are putting some pressure, but Dragon spawning is not going to help you when you're trying to dive in between the turrets from the top side of the map if you're Poppy.
stay this lane
I just think it was one of those things where it's like, we want map pressure, we want to equalize Dragon, go for
Well-
the dive, and at the same time push up for vision.
Well, they did it. You know, they saved their top turret. They took down the mid turret by pushing Faker off, so it did end up working. And I guess Darshan said, okay, I have enough of a CS advantage. I can lose a few here. We can actually just find a team fight or a team objective. And that actually works really well.
What do you feel about Cloud Templar's comment that's been immortalized now, that CLG is the first North American team to actually play like a team rather than just individual players?
I think that's a little bit unfair to how C9 used to play. I do think, though, that it's hard to question the fact that this iteration of CLG and the old iteration of Cloud9, the original iteration, are still the best North American teams to ever play at international events. And I know people are going to get their panties in a twist about TSM at IEM, but that was not anywhere near as competitive a tournament as Worlds or MSI. So, eat a dick.
Monte Cristo, 2016.
There's a little bit of map control with your mid laner getting chunked out so heavily like that, with Huhi not having sustain.
Duke really likes farming under in the turrets.
Yeah, he does. Or inhibitors. SKT has done that several times now, where they lose that inhibitor turret early, and he just stays there at inhibitors. He likes freezing and farming.
But he also likes like dangerously farming under in their turrets with no map pressure on the side.
Oh, it's Smithy.
Flashes away, gonna buy as much time as he can. Gonna continue to get run down. This should be eventually a kill. Subject get used to reduce some of the defenses here for Smith.
I mean, Bang's gonna commit a flash to that, which
But he hits every single mystic shot.
is true.
It's pretty amazing that he hits every mystic shot, to be honest.
That Nami bubble is shit, by the way.
I like how this looked like a great chase because no one had their eyes on the mini-map, where at least it's like, fuck that.
Oh, that bubble hurts me a little bit.
Hey, Wolf definitely plays a good Nami this series. You get one, and Bang's just like, no.
Yeah, Duke also didn't have to flash for that pillar either, so they were communicating super well about the intercept
But I mean,
right there.
you have to say this is the story of the series, though. Like, how many times in these 3 games is someone split pushing, or in this case, running away on one side of the map, and nothing happening anywhere else on the map? Like, SKT, like 4-man, 3-man collapse on split pushes or stragglers the whole series, and still just never have their lanes in order.
They do, at least they trade turrets right here. You have to say that, the ultimate from Poppy, and Duke responded well too. He went back as soon as that kill came through to try and start it, but in the end SKT still gets more. They get a kill, they get the Rift Herald, and they're going to get more farm onto Duke, and they're just going to trade the towers.
And this is the one where Faker's just like, see ya.
It's so dangerous to...
Okay, that's easy.
Yeah, they see a low mana Ezreal here and they want to try and continue, but it is dangerous.
Look at Huhi in the river. If SKT pick the wrong path out, there could be threat, but Huhi's not going to be able to find anything yet.
They're pinging Faker. Who's going to go for the 1v1?
Not going to find the stun. Faker smells something fishy.
I mean, I don't... He's cutting him off, but to what end, really?
Seem content to try to get some deep vision at least.
They get some wards in, but...
And I really don't like the Roa second build.
But the issue is they've been keeping Duke back the whole game, and look how much farm Duke gets off of this.
Oh no, I don't
Susie is unsafe.
and everyone's like, that's
They see a low mana Ezreal here and they want to try and
Yeah,
continue,
meanwhile at
but
Duke,
it is
I guess,
dangerous.
is the story.
Yeah, Duke is the story right here. Look how much farm he's going to get from this insanely long lane while they just run around. And
Lucian's even walking up to mid.
well, he's putting down the pressure so that they can actually get the deep wards in the top side. But those wards aren't going to do anything because Baron's going to spawn at 20 minutes and those wards are going to be gone very quickly after the Baron spawns. They're not going to take a 20-minute Baron anyway. So
I mean, it's
what is
worth
the
knowing
point of
that
this?
you can't keep a Trundle down forever. Like,
No.
and they are getting something. They're trading it for top red side jungle, which I don't know how I feel about that trade, but this is funny.
Obviously extremely squishy.
Yeah,
Faker knows it.
And we talked
I like how Hui tries to set this up.
I know.
First off, Hui horribly misplaced
getting
this.
a little bit too risky here. They
Well, that's because he
wanted to
walks up
try
and he's like, wait, I've earned it.
No, look at this parallel convergence. What is this supposed to do?
Faker knows it.
And we talked about
Hui is waiting for Faker to go into this. So
He thinks that Faker is going to kite backwards.
why?
This is the question. He doesn't have any vision, really. I guess he has vision of the enemy jungle,
Faker
not the
knows
river.
that Nidalee's not there because Faker can see this and he can see this right here and this. So he knows there's no real Nidalee chance around here. Chances are very low if Nidalee wasn't walking
Sure.
into the river right there. So why would you... That placement is not good. I say you put it here
Sure.
to protect Aframu, who's trying to take down the pink ward and help you out. Remember, Hui is at 50% health. Aframu also does not have ultimate.
Yeah, he's used to it.
I think this is a ridiculous play.
The deep wards here. Aframu just
I mean, the logic you're following here is that the enemy has all their pressure visibly on a different quadrant of the map, therefore Faker can't make that move.
But Faker has the vision to
Extend that lead even further.
take that
2-0-1.
risk.
Riley's
And he had both summoners up, so even if he was surprised, he's still probably going to get away. He can flash over his own.
But the best
Azir wall at
players,
that
when they
point.
get surprised, get things out of it, right? That's the thing. Is like you could surprise,
already 2 items.
disengage, and Faker's a surprise, eliminate supports, and kind of makes you think if we're going to see a lot of Nami and Soraka, we're going to see a lot of supports getting picked off.
Yep.
It's just the reality of the situation.
So you want to play around him on the map. Problem for CLG is the fact that there's a Trundle in the game who will beat the Poppy in the split push with also a Hydra build, so it's very, very, very split push focused from Duke.
So Korean tops don't build Titanic Hydra anymore. We saw Kikis when he was playing Trundle, still building it, but Ravenous Hydra is so much relatively stronger as a one-item power spike.
No, they build Ravenous Hydra than Pure Tank.
Yeah,
Or they'll build Iceborne.
but it makes sense why people used to build Titanic, because you got rewarded for going full tank. But
Yeah.
now there's so little AD, the one-item power spike's almost completely gone. You might as well just keep Tiamat and build a
Well,
Randuin.
also, it was the same story where you'd go Titanic and then swap it into Ravenous Hydra late game.
Wouldn't it be Ravenous and then swap it into Titanic late game?
No.
Because it would scale with your items.
Usually, no, that's not usually the way they did it. Fiora too.
I would think Ravenous...
No,
early-
Titanic gives you much more survivability in the early parts of the laning phase, while still allowing you to wave clear.
Only
I was looking at you and you were
Dark canceled it. See, you see.
But obviously the swapping mechanic's gone now.
Yeah.
It's quite more expensive. And just Hydra, I think, is a superior item, even if you're going to go tank build, which obviously you are in Trundle.
Very excited as well, but obviously
Indeed.
nothing happens in the play. And both teleports down. SKT will have the minor advantage of Duke's TP still up. We talked about that Duke.
So deep warding's super good for SKT right now, but Xwithy is still just farming, and yeah, he's 50 CS ahead, but that is the entire gold difference right now. The rest of his team's been falling behind, and remember that Duke has been catching up, and CLG still lacks any kind of coherent team fight that's going to win them this game, especially with Dragon up in 30 seconds and SKT recalling right now to take number 3, and Bang just steals away the red buff.
And Hui also is spending his gold on a stacking item 22 minutes in.
What is that build?
I mean, I don't mind the Abyssal first against Elise Azir,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but then casual Catalyst into blasting one into, I guess, a 22-minute Rod of Ages? Like,
Yeah. Oh, they're gonna get their third dragon stack at 21 minutes. Better build a scaling item. So they're at 4 dragons by the time my rod is fully stacked.
I don't have any logic on it.
And he will force you to defend on the tower. And then obviously for a team fight, he will become a little bit
Just
weak.
buy a Rylai's, man.
To you straight away and then keep getting all
I mean,
these-
Rylai's is actually pretty trash on Echo.
Fine, buy a Zonia's. Pick.
Absolutely.
Even against the QSS.
Zonia's, you commit to split push completely, and I guess buy a Lich Bane, but
Might actually not be a bad idea.
because he has a lot of ways to proc Lich Bane. Obviously, if you're an Iceborne Gauntlet guy, you can use Lich Bane just fine. But Zonia's is the obvious purchase.
Big moves here. They still have the gold to win a team fight. They just have to land some crucial silences with the Soraka there.
Well, that's why.
I mean, they're even in gold, but they just don't have a feasible. So they're half poking, half going in, and they can't. They're having trouble even stopping the pressure onto the turret right now.
And then TP into flank against the Azir.
Exactly. The way I was talking about CLG loves
Trundle's like, please don't fight. This wave is so big.
is annihilating
Yeah.
one threat
Just
from the
wait it
back
out.
line of the enemy
Meanwhile, bang.
Bang,
Oh, missed Q.
fending them off from all sides here.
Yeah, it's hard to find
So they're trying to 1-3-1 now,
every single
but it's going to be slow, and they don't have the wave clear of Echo's top lane.
It's also worth noting that as we find out this series, Echo is a trash teleport flanker.
Yeah, he's real bad. Oh my god, bang.
Who he doesn't have teleport also. So I guess it doesn't matter if he's trash teleport flanker. He doesn't have teleport.
Why would you leave? So you're AP Echo.
Uh-huh.
You have some of the only wave clear besides a Lucian ult on your team, which is down. Why are you walking into the top side without TP? And they see him right there on the ward. And they know that Nidalee has already been zoned out of this, so it's basically just a free push. Duke can also just TP in. So you're going to have a 5v4 if they try and defend.
Well, the comms has to be give up the turret, right?
Okay, then why are they not giving up the turret? Both exhausts go down. That's a great pillar right there from Trundle. Interrupts the pounce.
I guess the only way you understand it is that all flashes were up, so it was just give up the turret, and then Afra getting hit by the cocoon is what provoked the attack. Like, because all flashes were up at the start of this. Yeah, we're okay.
Okay, no.
Because like the moment that Aframo gets hit by a cocoon, it baits everything else to happen. But that's the only communication line that makes sense with the map movement. Like, otherwise, there's no reason he would be there.
Yeah. It's just kind of dire.
It's pretty outrageous that this game is still very close, gold-wise.
Yeah. You know, I thought this game, Papa, was a lot closer when I was watching it live.
Yeah.
But now I look at it and I'm like, it wasn't close at all.
I mean, the pick that CLG makes is what makes it interesting, right? I'm pretty sure this is the game where they make the sick pick on Faker, right? Or is that game 2?
They do play really well. They play for that pick. That was really good. I forgot about that. But it's not their play that's necessarily bad. What I'm learning, well, okay, Huhi's lane assignments have been whack.
Sure, but this is not Huhi's fault. There's no way Huhi goes all the way top because he thinks it's a cool idea and never tells anyone. Someone told him it was fine to split push top.
Yeah, but if you just have to make a decision, and the team's decision is to wander around a turret that they are guaranteed to lose because of the decision that they just made.
So why does Afro try to poke is the question.
That's just ridiculous.
He tries to poke with Q and basically...
Okay, the reason why, Papa, is you thought it was because he got hit by the cocoon. It wasn't. Poppy was already coming in. This was a call that was made. This is a split call. Why is Poppy coming in on the flank with the W already up? Riddle me that. This was a planned play. That's why Afro's walking up.
But why?
Oh, it's a bad call. But we know it. We know it is a call because this is down.
Yeah.
And because Afro's walking forward.
But what I don't understand is they know that he can't be there.
Oh, it's terrible, right? Don't get me wrong, but it was a call that was made. They intentionally went into that 4v5.
Well, I mean, it was a 4v4, but they knew the enemy had teleport advantage.
Yep.
The enemy's Trundle, who doesn't have the best teleport in. It seems like a really low percentage play that they're gonna...
Just bad.
So if we return to it and try and understand the logic of it, is they want him to blow his teleport, right? So he doesn't have a teleport advantage, but it's such a hard engage to get a teleport blown.
Yeah.
I'm just not willing to say that it was all like completely like little chance, right? There was clearly some thought into this.
That was it, but against the Nami and against the Azir, your engage is so long range, and if you walk up to where the turret is dying and you have to walk all the way back down the lane against Nami ult, Trundle Pillar, and Azir, you're just not going to make it.
Up as well,
yeah, at least. It's just not going to happen. It is interesting that we see a banner so early on the Elise, but...
This has become standard this time. Like, there were some games where you really, you know, we talked about it with the... Against the Callista that was going Blade, it was obviously a very smart adaptation, but both MLXG, Blank, and another Elise this tournament have gone it, so...
Well, they got the TP for free too, SK Telecom, just by going the bottom lane, so any potential timing advantage that CLG would have had with double TP is now also gone.
SK Telecom now to start being more aggressive and like push further past the river. They don't have to. They can literally just set up the Baron, play a bit passive,
And the reason why you're, looking back on this game differently is that SKT, gold-wise, don't have much, but 3 dragons so early, and the team comps mean that this game is very hard to lose.
Yeah, very hard.
It's like, let's fight against 4th, 5th dragon, against Trundle, Azir, Nami.
It's also ridiculously easy if SKT ever gets a Baron to close this game. Super easy. Flash Cocoon, man.
Blank is super good this series on the lease.
People will say, oh, well, he was behind on CS. Well, he got dicked on in the early game this time.
He's always behind on CS.
And...
on a lease versus Nidalee match.
Yeah, of course. That matchup, I mean, it's not normally 60 CS bad, but he did have a really hard start. And he has sort of made up
but
for
I
it
mean,
in terms
think
of
about
kills.
the disadvantage though. He's 60 CS behind against a jungler that's died 3 times. So that tells you that he was not interested in farming.
Yeah.
But that's great because all he's been interested in doing the whole tournament is farming.
Yeah.
And he's 3-0-0. He's been in the right spots. I really, really like them going Elise because it showed that they had a plan for Blank rather than just farm and make the best of it.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what is Koma telling the team if they're like, this wasn't working, we need to go Elise? Because Elise is very different identity to other junglers, so to me, over-prioritizing or highly prioritizing Elise means that he's kind of dissected what the problem was in the early game. Maybe it was communication, maybe it was lane assignments, but going for Elise basically makes the game plan very transparent.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that that was his read on how to win games, I guess.
Let's talk about this real quick, because this is actually very poorly played by SKT. They think they're safe because they have the Azir turret. Everything's working out. But you'll notice that Echo has pushed up to a tier 2. It's going to force Duke to recall, give Poppy more time to build a wave, and Poppy going to come back too. So Duke doesn't have TP, though, and he has to clear this out. He actually pings that he's on his way there. SKT has an opportunity now because they know where Echo and Poppy just were.
Sure.
So you take this turret, you leave.
Yep.
It's 25 minutes in the game. You do not go for inhibitor at this stage at all. So this is a pretty big misplay by SKT. You're just not going to be able to get anything. Everything up until that point was good. This is just really bad. I mean, Darshan doesn't have TP for that. He just walks in for free. So really poor play by SKT. And you really don't want to give them an opportunity to rush down a Baron right now. That's pretty
And this is when it gets exciting. The CLG, like,
this is smart.
from one mistake from SKT, they get, what, like 4 or 5 kills, they peel off Baron a couple of times.
They play it
This
really
is some
well.
really well-drilled League of Legends.
Yep. I think this is where, in the beginning, after those deaths, when they started reassigning lanes and playing around minion waves, they played really well. And then at this point in time, CLG plays super well around this mistake. And SKT doesn't have a choice. They can't apply pressure without the TP down. They have to walk in here. Duke is still kind of squishy at this point. And he had to use his ultimate right there. And he goes in and picks up the kill into Nami.
It was a mistake from Wolf, who tries to flash away, even though the first E is propped.
Yeah.
The flash is bad. See, the moment that he does the first E, you can't flash. And look, obviously there's like half a second between those things, but feels bad, man. There's no wards left.
Bang, there's no mana.
Yep. But it's one of those things where SKT have to stick around even with no mana bars, because even buying, say, 4 seconds of them turning stops Baron from going down.
Yep.
So it's all about...
I mean, just no mana on Blank, no mana on Bang, no flash on Bang, no flash on Blank. It's like the perfect storm for SKT where they can't fight this, but CLG takes advantage of it. And also, it couldn't come at a better time. Now, they didn't get the Baron, but they can get the next Dragon, which will stop the stacking.
Every time we see one of these exciting moves from CLG, we have to remember that you have to keep your calm about you. The baby steps to get back into the game. CLG right here, take another one.
The other thing is SKT go in on some of that, and they go that aggressive, not respecting the fact that Soraka can top everyone off. Like, the re-engage with a full HP Soraka is insane, level 9 as well.
And this is just a great play.
This is awesome.
So they bait them into thinking that the dragon is going down because
of course it would be,
yeah,
right?
of course it would be. You would never expect if you're going to be stacking to 4th dragon that your opponent is waiting here. So
Literally
it's such a
0%
tricky,
of the time.
It's such a tricky call. So they know also there aren't any wards there, and they don't even play this that badly. If we take a look, they are going to use Wolf uses his sweeping lens right there. He doesn't see any wards in the brush, so he doesn't think they're going to be standing there with no vision.
This is a sick play. Like
And then the ward comes over the wall, and they just all in. And you look at these flashes. Xmithy flashes, Darshan flashes to get the E. It's a great play by CLG.
But this was like, when that happened, you're like, oh shit, you know?
Yeah,
the American Pie, you had it in your hands. You're just like, yep, here we go.
That was such a good play.
Because how can you expect that as SKT? Because 100% of the time they're trying to rush that dragon down as fast as possible.
No, you can't. That's just pure trickiness. And it's a risk, too, from CLG. Because, okay, let's talk about that a little bit more. So they know that they're going to be pushing up the mid lane once we get out of this replay. I wish we didn't see this replay. But they see them in the mid lane. And in a world where SK Telecom walks around this way...
Or that Blank is already there. If he's the one, if he's leading
if
down
he's
the
at like
path
Scuttle Crab or something like that, or they are actually in this choke point right now, this play doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So it's a big risk by CLG, but I think they have to take a risk right now, and it really does work beautifully.
It's a sick play. Like, it's a really.
It wasn't even dangerous either. No. That's the thing. SKT led with the lens. They played it by the book.
That's why it's sick.
It was sick.
Because it's smart.
It was sick.
It plays around the knowledge they have, the vision they have. It's another reason why people talk about the CLG lineup and the CLG performance. Like they went down 3-0, but it was an honorable 3-0 for sure.
Yep.
Especially given this game started with basically FF at 5 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. And their composition, I don't think, is good.
Well, they disagree with you, as you can tell by the next game.
They can disagree all they want. They lose 2 games.
Dropping down 50%. Now Duke is the only man here. CLG needs to
but that pick had nothing to do with their composition.
Sure.
You could have done that with virtually any of the champions in jungle and in top in the current meta.
I mean, yeah, Maokai obviously does the exact same play.
Yeah.
Echo probably doesn't, but...
Oh, you're still going to get over with your E and then be able to slow them.
Maybe not being able to get the kill. I think he had both
I think you can get that kill. You play that with
He
Echo...
dies during the CC duration.
Echo Graves?
Yeah, but he dies during the CC duration.
He did have Flash, so... Alright, maybe I agree.
That's the reason why I say it, because he had both summoners.
It's the kind of place you just do not expect if you're a team like SKT, who hides there right now, but...
Yeah, I agree with Division. Who the fuck does that? Clever, though. It's how you win sometimes, is by doing things your opponents don't expect. And by the way, that is not Chaos style. That was actually intelligent play based around vision.
I probably would disagree with that.
Okay.
He is the main proponent of Chaos style.
No, he's not.
Wasn't he the one that talked to you about it on the stream?
Oh, he's not a proponent of it.
No, I just remember you guys arguing about Chaos style.
Oh, yeah, well, we can argue about it, but I would certainly not call H2K having ever been Chaos style.
Sure. I just remember you being tilted by the idea of Chaos style.
I am constantly tilted by the idea of Chaos style. So CLG get the pick, and then they don't rush it down. They just play around the dragon again. And they've been doing super well, despite their questionable composition. They took about as many objectives as they could have hoped for, given that scenario.
Interesting that nobody on the side of SKT has Grievous Wounds. In fact, the only person with Grievous Wounds is Stixxay.
Yeah,
So that tells you, I mean, at the end of the day, you always want to kill Soraka first because, you know, screw the unicorn bitch, but like it's doubly important when you don't have any way to interact. And I guess you could argue that Grievous Wounds doesn't do much against Soraka based on how healing works, but you still buy it, right? It works against Huhi very well.
Well, you don't have a good person to buy it on, because most of the time we'd see it on a Hurricane AD carry,
was openly mocked.
Sure.
with Mortal Reminder, or we'd see it on the jungler with Mortal Reminder.
But Bang is a proponent of buying the other one every time. Well, remember, we've criticized him for building Lord Dominus regard in every game.
Yeah.
Sure. Hey, look, it's diving backline onto an Ezreal.
Oh god. I mean, that's it from this point on.
You can't dive in Ezreal. I know so many comps in this meta are triple AD versus backline dive, but you cannot dive in Ezreal without Maokai.
Well, they do get around to banning the Ezreal in game number 3.
It's a good call.
It was a really good call, I think. Now, SKT, Darshan plays this actually incorrectly, in my opinion. I don't know what he's doing right now. He should be, Deficio's right, he should be clearing the minion wave. He has no business being there.
He's made that play before, proxying waves, right?
He has to go back. Like, as soon as you see that happen, and
You proxy the wave.
3 of your allies die, if you're already back here, you do not move. You stay right here and proxy that wave, because that may be the only way that you...
And the surprise is that he made that exact play in previous times. So, going back to the base...
I just don't understand what he's hoping to accomplish right now.
Running straight down the mid, they're gonna get the inhibitor.
Dashawn just have to go back and try and clear out the minion wave instead, because it's only 1 million minion for SKT. I don't think he can really do...
They're really honestly lucky that the game didn't end right
Sure.
here. The wave just happened to be in the right place at the right time for them, where it was barely too far out for them to actually finish this game in 25 seconds. But you gotta try.
He's trying to pull the attention, the focus from SKT, and will survive a few more minutes.
So what do you think? Could they have ended, Papa?
No.
I mean, I think they get 1 Nexus turret.
They would have had to tank up with 2 people, and there would have been a real chance of an ace, and then we've seen games end. I guess on this patch, because death timers have been changed twice in the last couple of patches, that I don't think there could have been a reverse kill like in IM, but it's too risky. You don't do it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to come back to the Mortal Reminder here, because remember, Mortal Reminder shuts down Nidalee, Echo, and Soraka. There's all sorts of self-heals and heal interactions, and Bang doesn't like Mortal Reminder for some reason. That item is super strong with Grievous Wounds being changed before LCK patch.
Yep. I'm glad it's changed, too.
I agree. It was
The
just,
self-heal is just useless.
but it was just so unintuitive. It's like, I see a Soraka, I'm gonna reduce healing. Actually, I don't do anything.
Yep.
If this feels bad, man. Although I built a QSS in solo queue recently, and that felt bad too. I was against an Urgot for some reason.
Why did they do that? Why did they change QSS?
Because I don't like the idea of a 1300 or 1250 gold item countering it.
But it takes a fucking slot.
I agree.
It's shit on tanks, but you still have to buy it versus Trundle.
And I agree that with that, I think that when it's fully evolved, it should give the old QSS effect.
To Mercurial, you mean?
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's just, what's the answer to Zed? Does the 80k build a Zonia 6 item? Like,
I hate that change so much.
but maybe you can nerf Zed and make him interactive with it. I think with a suite of changes, it can be fine, but in isolation, it's just like, this is obviously overpowered now.
Nice bubble.
Like, is Trundle support now like everyone's arm race must ban champion?
So let's yeah, exactly.
Like,
it's ridiculous.
Trundle's now
now.
just ridiculous.
So let's talk about what happens here. So they're trying to push this up, but there's already a collapse in place. The wave is in place in the mid lane with the super minions. To make this possible, GA's not yet finished for Darshan. And this is a super good bubble, by the way.
Yep.
Gets the slow from Azir, bubble straight into it, forces the QSS, and then the runaway. So
That's 90-second cooldown as well.
exactly. So now SKT's in a super good spot because because Duke has his ult up, CLG has no front line for the next 90 seconds. So they actually can't fight at all. They absolutely cannot fight. But they're going to try and fight. And SKT is just delaying as long as they can. There's a super minion wave. And this TP is just... It's desperate from
I don't
CLG.
think he could I don't think he could teleport to the red buff. The other one's too shallow, so that's kind of the only ward he has.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the only thing he can do. But if we look at what SKT did, Pink ward, pink
Yeah, yeah,
ward,
yeah.
pink ward.
It's
right,
not- it's
the
not a
setup is
coincidence.
the setup is super good for SKT. They did a good job of clearing vision. They didn't even have to use their sweepers. There aren't any wards. And Stixay gets poked out by Faker to start out this fight. So they put down the poke damage on the AD carry, and they just retreat.
Remember,
They don't have to do anything right now. They could just kite out of this. Remember, Darshan has no tank stats as soon as he's going to get ulted by Duke.
not yet.
There
Now.
it is, right there.
Has flash though.
Has flash, but Bang is actually... Look at how forward Bang is playing right now. Bang has some serious balls as an AD carry.
I mean, he's Ezra with flash.
Sure, but he puts down the damage right in the front line.
He goes in on Huhi to try and get an assassination. Look at the damage.
Well, that was the damage from just the E.
I know.
And the auto.
It is a just watch. It's also the backside of the Q.
Yeah. But Bang also does a very good job of staying on the outside of the Echo ultimate right there. I mean, look at that. He doesn't even get hit by it, which would have been immense damage. And was it the backside of the Q?
No, it wasn't because it's later.
Just the E. Just the E auto.
So let's watch the E. Get the E.
It was the E auto passive proc.
Jesus Christ.
It's a lot of damage.
You don't expect it, right? Because you're like looking for an Iceborne Gauntlet proc. Like,
Yeah,
wait,
unfortunately, the rest of his allies are way too low
Sure.
already in this fight. Darshan is nearly dead. Xmithy is the only thing holding this fight together.
The question
right now.
is, my question to you is, if Darshan doesn't make that TP, but remember they already have mid lane inhibitor down.
No, you have to try.
Yeah,
They had
that's
lost
what-
the game.
I think it was still the correct play.
I agree entirely. I don't think CLG was wrong to make this play. It just sucks that he had to use his QSS in advance because it really just shot them in the foot in terms of what plays they can make. Because he's just poppy butter right now. Hey, okay, he gets rid of blank, but that's not important really. Elise is pretty not really going to contribute much in the late game anyway to these team fights. And
I mean,
Faker,
this team fight could have been
by
better.
the way, Faker, good play on
Yeah.
this here.
This team fight could have been better. Remember, Duke and Faker kind of just like chill on not killing Darshan for ages at the top, while Bang goes aggressive in bot side.
That's some pretty good
Sure, the
Azir
re-engage
play.
by Faker's sick.
And again, just the pillar wraparound straight into it. And you'll notice they just ignore Darshan. They just decide to turn. Darshan's useless right now, so who cares whether he dies or not. And that's it. End of the game.
That was a cool game. Like,
It was a